Welcome to Cause Before Symptom, uncovering the real cabal and spiritual forces that are controlling the world. And now, here is your host, James Carter.
Yes! Yes, it is James Carter. Hey, welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carter. Today is November 4th, 2025. And tonight's episode is all about the dead on arrival, the AI that couldn't become God. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And guys, tonight I ended up getting a brand new microphone right here. Hopefully this thing will work and make me happy. I don't know. This is the third one I've tried. And from what I understand, you can't go wrong with the company Shure. Now, I'm not endorsing them. I just literally bought it at Best Buy. But they say this is the best blogging or podcast microphone you can get. But I was honestly, man, there was the other microphone, the blue mic. It worked for a year. It did its thing. I even used it all on my TikTok stuff. But I really enjoyed this show, and I had to upgrade so I can hear myself, and hopefully it sounds better. I hope. Shout out to everybody on the live chat Rumble. Number one warrior is Scorpion saying, "What's up, Ragtag Warrior fam? Hope y'all have been reading the new scripture." Amen to that. Number two warrior is Jeffrey saying, "Hey y'all, so Zoran Mandani, one beating Cuomo, I don't know much about him. We'll see who he works for soon." Yeah, I don't know either. I really don't. And I don't care. I don't live in New York. I don't care. That's just how I feel about that. But New York is always picking the wrong person, just like every other state. So that's just how it is. And it's how much money you got and how much you're going to put towards social media. And, well, apparently all the other runners didn't put any money towards social media, and this guy did, and that's how he won. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Number three warrior is Boots Hafner saying, "Hello, warriors. Come out and pray, yay." All right. Hi, Pastor James of the airwaves. And fellow warriors, let's be kind to marsupials, and let's hit that thumbs up button. Yes, hit the thumbs up button. Thank you. Rumble doesn't like me unless I have more likes. And the more likes, the higher I go up. And that's just how it works. Number four warriors, Robert Gertison saying, "Hi, y'all." He says, A-A-O. What is, A-I-A-I-O. Oh, I thought those were up brackets. I forgot the name of that. I thought it was A-A-O. You know. Jeffrey says, "Better quality, but might have to fix some things." Crap. Damn it. God, man, I'm telling you, I cannot get it right with these microphones. I just can't. Well, on we go. Well, at least better quality, yeah. But you say it doesn't sound that great? Well, it's all automatic. It's supposed to be all auto. And there is one thing that I'm not doing is I'm not plugging it in through the AXL through a mixer. I'm just plugging it straight to the computer. That's just how it is. I don't know. And Jeffrey says that. And then Jeffrey says, "Hey, could you make a video on gematria?" Good idea. Never thought about that. Yeah, shoot me an email as a reminder. Sometimes I get a little busy. All right. Well, let's get into my personal life, guys. It looks like we may have found a home for Oliver here, well, in the town next door to us. So this is exciting news for me because we really need more people to watch him, and this place seems like they're going to have enough people, and we're going to be able to visit him because he's going to be in the next town over. And so this is the idea. We also are interviewing another place, which is 3 hours away. And so we're going between two places, but regardless, we found a place for my kid. And he's 17, turning 18, and we can only do so much. He's getting too big, and it's really hard to keep employees. They call them DSPs, and these are certain workers who understand how to work with the disabled and are not nurses, but they've taken a lot of courses to, help. And so this is very exciting for me because my son's turning 18. I highly doubt he wants to live for the rest of his life with mommy and daddy, okay? It would be cool if he had his own place, and this is what we can give him. And so this will be a place where he can grow up, a place where they can help him and work to get him to be happy, okay? Because right now he's miserable. And it's because of his self-injurious behavior. We don't know how to turn that off. It is what it is. But hopefully this all pans out. Because here's the thing, guys. Mom and Dad, we can only do so much, okay? He only sleeps about 4 hours a night. So he's sleep deprived, and so are we. And every bump in the night, because he is self-injurious, he hits his head, we wake up immediately. Or if you turn on a light, we're up and we're ready to, help and get him situated. And we've been doing this for 4 years now, and we don't get breaks. Okay, we don't get days off. I mean, I do. Earlier, back during the summer, I went to the gold mine 3 times, but that's it. So we don't get 2 days off, 5 days on. And so hopefully this will be something that he will appreciate, he will enjoy, he will be happy. That's what we're looking to do. We want him to be happy. And we also want this place to help us and us help them find alternatives to him hitting. I can't tell you enough how hard it is for a parent who has an autistic child and they will not stop harming themselves. It's worse than it's worse than you getting beat up, because I'd rather myself be beat up than watch visibly your own kid beat themselves up. I mean, it's insane, and it will drive you nuts. It's driven me nuts. I mean, I'm in therapy because of it, and I have nothing wrong. I have nothing wrong with therapy. I think it's great. I just have a problem with Freudian therapy, where you start to go, "Hey, aren't you in love with your mother?" No. Number 5 warrior is Surfer Wife saying, "Hey, what's up, Surfer Wife? Thank you for being here." And Jeffrey says, "That's awesome, James." Surfer Wife says, "I'm so sorry." Then says, "Pray on which place to take him." We are. And Surfer Wife says, he will have a fulfilling life. That is awesome. I hope so. Robert Gertison says, "My niece has special needs. Moving her to a home was a difficult adjustment in the beginning, but now she absolutely loves it and has so many friends." Well, that's the idea. Don't just lock him up in one place, man. He's got to be free and be happy. That's my goal. And I want him to be happy. So there you have it. So that's all the personal stuff. Let's get into breaking news. Really shitty breaking news.
Welcome to Shitty Breaking News with your host, James Carner, offering his shitty opinion.
Well, it is. And again, I do the news because you guys like it and you want my opinion on certain things. I personally can only keep up with so many things, but just so you know why I do the news every night. So California voters passed Proposition 50 to redraw the state's congressional maps. Yeah, like California voters really passed that one. So basically, this is another shenanigan that politicians do, and they redraw places so that it'll favor one party over the other when it comes to votes. That's gerrymandering, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years. And so this isn't anything new. And this is so California continues to keep their own control, and it does not turn red whatsoever. That's the reason. And now Texas did it too, a red state. And they did it because they don't want it to turn blue. And it was getting close to there because Texas has a lot of deals they have with China and Russia, just how it is. So, yeah, I mean, gerrymandering is I don't know the whole logistic of it, but I have a basic understanding. It's moving certain areas of population so that you can get more votes for your team. It's weird. And it's kind of like the Electoral College, except illegal because they're doing it like right before an election. And it's just what it is. Surfer wife lives in California, I believe. She says, Prop 50 pass, we are so fucked. Well, I didn't do it. Election Day live updates from the Mamdani celebrates his victory. So he won because he had more money to put into social media. The other guys had no idea what social media was. Democrat Spanberger wins race for Virginia governor. Well, are you surprised? Hasn't Virginia been blue? At least 7 dead after UPS plane crashes in Kentucky. Well, is it because we didn't pay the air traffic controllers? Well, apparently it erupted into a ball of fire. Hopefully my packages weren't on it. That's all I have to say. Trump closes his closing argument, tariff case is life or death for the United States. I guess this is the tariff case for the Supreme Court. I don't know. All of these tariffs, you don't notice it. And it all started this year, and you're not going to notice the tariffs for probably another year. And that's going to be when we're really affected by it. So he's doing everything he can to keep it going, and he's being fought on it by China and Russia because China and Russia are controlling Chicago, and Chicago is controlled by the mafia. And that I'm not going to name the mafia name. It's too close to home. If I name the New York mafia and the Chicago mafia and their names, that's different than naming the Orsini family and the Lee family. No, when you name their names and you start going in that direction, boy, you'll really get your head blown off. But regardless, it's United States and Europe against the East. And it's either if the Democrats win a presidential election, then it's going to be China and Russia policies. It's not going to look like it, but the laws that are passed are going to favor them. And then if the Orsini family, then they're going to favor Europe, and laws that are passed it's not going to look like it, but they will. And that's the whole game that they play as far as controlling America. And my research indicates that this all started when George Bush Sr. became a CIA director. And after that, he got all the skinny of all the bad people in the world and decided to blackmail them and did a deal with China. And I don't know if this was the plan for the Breakspear family, but regardless, the Breakspear family passed their torch to the Dent family, who passed their torch to the Lee family through the opium trade. And that's how they got their money and their power. And then China decided to kill 1 billion of their own people in order to have enough sacrifices under their belt. A ritual sacrifice of dead humans. That's 1 billion breaths under their registry to have power. And this is why BRICS is catching up with the Federal Reserve. This is my research. Take it for what you want. Democrat Jay Jones wins Virginia Attorney General race. So yeah, Democrat. Well, that usually happens during these mid things. Again, I hate politics, and I hate talking about it, but it is what it is, guys. And that just seems to be all of the breaking shitty news. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial. When we get back, we're going to be talking about Dead on Arrival, the AI that couldn't become God. Yeah, AI just took a dump on Wall Street today. We're going to talk all about it.
Do you have tax burdens? Do you carry personal liability? If so, let me tell you why you have tax burdens and personal liability. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll share a simple solution to reduce the burdens you carry. When you put assets in your name, you also carry the liability. And by setting up a corporation, LLC, or partnership, you also carry the liability for the share of ownership you have in these organizations. So when you receive a W-2 form, 1099, or K-1 at the end of each year, that shows your liability for the assets you have carried in your name or your business name. The flow of liability works this way. You get a job, you take money in your name. When you are a contractor, you take money in your name. When you begin a business, you take money in the business name, which is set up with you as the owner. Nelson Rockefeller quoted, "The secret to success is to own nothing but control everything." He said this because when you own something in your name, you also own the liabilities. Introducing the solution. Begin an unincorporated association and remove assets out of your name while remaining in control and management of them. An unincorporated association is a state-registered entity that you can put assets into, is member-based and not tied to your name, has a tax-exempt EIN number, is private and not found when doing an online search. Whether you receive a 1099 or K-1 under your name, consider setting up your own unincorporated association and allow the association to be the owner of your assets and free yourself from the burden of personal liability. P.S. Join our affiliate program and receive payment for referrals.
All right, back to the show. So AI, artificial intelligence, what we thought was going to be huge, actually turned out to be a flop. And they sold us a bill of goods when it came out, and a bunch of investors just rushed to it. And this is what we now call the bubble, the AI bubble. And the funny thing is, after AI started to prove that it can only go so far, they decided to come out with another term called artificial general intelligence. This is to hold the investors to keep going. And it didn't seem to work because Wall Street today crashed, especially the Dow and the NASDAQ. Let's just take a look at what crash it was, stock market today. Yeah, so the Dow, the S&P 500, NASDAQ, they just crashed. Even AMD slides, and same with Nvidia. And people are saying, oh my God, what's this going to do to the future? Well, I'm going to tell you, that's what we're going to be talking about. And they got hit by the AI valuation concerns because investors now are starting to wake up to the fact that Palantir and other companies are investing into our data, and they want to build an even better surveillance program than what we have currently. This is a good thing because, hey, if it wasn't for people like me who come on to shows and tell you what the CIA, NSA, NBC, all the crap, and I say NBC because to the media are the same thing as the Secret Service. They all lie to us and expose this stuff. That's my job. And I feel good about doing it because my thought and policy is, who else is going to do it? Because if no one's going to do it, then damn it, I'm going to do it. And this is where we are. So they said it had arrived when AI came out. And not just the media, but the machine's chosen priests. Sam Altman, Sundar Pichai, or Pichai. Yeah, I think it's Pichai. Satya Nadella, and Elon Musk. All right? These are your priests of technology. No joke. And they promised a future reborn and coded in silicon. And these men, along with the venture capital cults behind them, Sequoia, Andreessen Horowitz, SoftBank, all poured billions of dollars into the altar of artificial divinity. Intelligence, they claimed, had been captured, compressed, and digitized. And the new mind would think faster than any human. They said it would solve cancer. Right. Cancer was healed 120 years ago. They just won't tell you what the cure is because there's no money in it. They also said it would write poetry. They also said AI would automate war and whisper secrets of the universe. Well, guess what, folks? It lied. And this was not the quiet birth of a tool. It was a coronation. Artificial intelligence was announced not as a servant, but as a sovereign. And OpenAI released ChatGPT like a herald. Microsoft invested $13 billion like an offering. Remember, everything's spiritual. And Google scrambled to resurrect its own God in Bard, while Amazon followed with Bedrock and Anthropic. Even Trump, not to be outdone, set the stage with $500 billion toward U.S. data infrastructure. Data center in Texas. BlackRock, Fidelity, and Vanguard repositioned global portfolios around AI, turning algorithmic promise into asset-backed worship. And behind the scenes, the Department of Defense and DARPA began seeding AI into their kill chains and battlefield decision-making. Now, AI was never about assistance. It was about ascendance. Us ascending into the fourth industrial revolution, according to Klaus Schwab. And now today, the curtain has been pulled back. The market dropped. The breath escaped. The illusion cracked. And what was revealed is not a god, but a ghost. A hallucinating machine with no memory, no logic, and no soul. Investors, lured by previews of omniscience, mistook a trailer for the feature. Let me repeat that. Mistook a trailer for the feature. Okay. A trailer you see on a commercial. Oh, that looks good. I got to see that movie. And then when you see it, it's like, well, there was no completed film here. Only stitched together demos, fine-tuned trickery, and scripted conversations. GPT, Cloud, Gemini, XAI, none of them were conscious. None were divine. But the lie had already funded the temple. Uh-oh. And behind the stage, a silent war raged for the materials of incarnation. Nvidia's chips became sacraments. Taiwan became sacred ground. And the White House, caught in the middle, issued executive orders to control who could breathe life into machines. India, China, and the EU scrambled for chip sovereignty. But all of this, every meeting, every subsidy, every policy was built upon a machine that still cannot think. The breath never came. The God never stood. And the stock market proved it. Yet the elite, they can't turn back now. They are bound by contracts that they no longer control. The machine must rise. Not because it works, but because they've promised it will. Sam Altman cannot admit to this illusion. Elon Musk cannot delay his techno-utopia. And Google cannot lose to Microsoft. BlackRock cannot afford a collapse either. And so they all must double down, holding closed-door meetings to prepare for the next illusion. Something must be released soon. Something big. Something believable. A second coming. Another breathless miracle. Now, they've already been calling it ChatGPT-5, right? Or real AGI, artificial general intelligence. the mind of the machine, and its launch will be marketed like a prophecy fulfilled. They'll say it's different this time, smarter, safer, closer to human, and it will write code, make laws, guide weapons, teach children, diagnose disease. Well, that's what they promised this one would do. I've played around with AI and writing code, dude. It sucks at it. And it will be painted as flawless. But behind the curtain, it will still hallucinate. It will still parrot. It still fails to understand. And still, they will crown it because they must. They've invested too much. Trillions. And the temple, it's been built. The stage is lit for the Antichrist. The investors are watching. Well, now they're pulling out. But the question remains, what this God awaken, or will it? Or will it be too dead on arrival? Now, the world didn't stumble into the AI age. It was summoned with scripted keynotes, billion-dollar partnerships, and global media saturation. The illusion of arrival was carefully staged by a cartel of corporations, governments, and intelligence assets. OpenAI's launch of ChatGPT in late 2022 was not a surprise. It was a ritual unveiling. The moment the model demonstrated it could draft emails and mimic conversation, the global financial machine erupted. Money, money. What had once been a curiosity among researchers became a messianic narrative. AGI was coming, and it was here now. That illusion was the product, not the model. And behind this illusion stood actors like Sam Altman, the poster prophet of the AI priesthood, who declared that artificial general intelligence would reshape society, the workforce, even the meaning of human value. But Altman wasn't alone. He was backed by the largest investor networks on Earth. Microsoft's multi-billion-dollar partnership with OpenAI transformed Azure into the divine scaffolding for the new mind. Sundar Pichai scrambled to rebrand Google as an AI-first company, quietly folding DeepMind and Google Brain into Gemini, reintroducing the same flawed technology under new names to keep shareholders hypnotized. The illusion gained power not through capability, but through narrative. Financial news outlets like CNBC to Bloomberg began treating language models as if they were sentient oracles. CEOs didn't integrate AI into quarterly reports, saw their stocks fall. Those who did, regardless of actual deployment, watched their market cap soar. Even companies like C3.ai, Palantir, and SoundHound saw inexplicable rallies, not because of product maturity, but because of proximity to the idea. So it was not intelligence that drove capital, it was belief or faith. And this belief, however, required ignorance. The public wasn't told that these models couldn't reason, that their outputs were stochastic or not even strategic, that they hallucinated with confidence a lot and fabricated resources and sources. And that beneath the marketing lies sat glorified autocomplete machines whose predictive abilities were only as good as their training data, and often worse. And it wasn't just misleading, it was engineered deception. The Securities and Exchange Commission watched this unfold without meaningful intervention. The Federal Reserve watched the bubble inflate while trying to stabilize an economy held together by confidence and speculation, or toothpicks and gum. Institutional investors knew the truth. but their fiduciary obligations tied them to the narrative. Like the high priests of Baal, they had danced too long to stop the music. They had to keep chanting until fire fell from heaven or risk exposure. What the world received was not divine fire, but a mirage of sparks. AI-generated images, gimmick apps, video games with smarter bots, and marketing copy dressed up as prophecy. Well, there was no real AGI, artificial general intelligence. There was no sentient leap. And the arrival was a facade of pre-release demos, cherry-picked prompts, and breathless press coverage. But the world believed, because it needed to, because the kings of the earth had declared it. And when kings declare gods, the people bow. Yet every day that passes without true AGI in a day closer to the reckoning. When the investors realize they funded a trailer with no film, a temple with no breath, and a god with no voice. The AI investment frenzy was not born from progress. It was born from propaganda. And the ones who chanted loudest at the altar were the very shepherds of Silicon Valley and Wall Street. CEOs across the tech industry paraded AI integration as the divine answer to inefficiency, job redundancy, and economic uncertainty. But their real goal was to inflate stock value, cash out at the peak, and let retailers and investors hold the illusion. Mark Zuckerberg of Meta pivoted his company strategy from the metaverse to artificial intelligence in early 2023, announcing layoffs of over 20,000 employees under the guise of streamlining for AI. At the same time, he sold hundreds of millions in Meta stock throughout the year. Guess he didn't believe in his Meta being working. Andy Jassy at Amazon made similar moves, cutting tens of thousands of jobs across Amazon Web Services and logistics, all while claiming the future was AI automation. Yet Amazon, or AWS, had no concrete public breakthroughs in artificial general intelligence, just tools to run large models. Arvind Krishna of IBM declared in May of 2023 that 30% of non-customer facing jobs would be replaced by AI over 5 years, triggering a media wave that inflated the value of IBM's AI division, despite weak performances in real-world deployments. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, was perhaps the most influential voice. His strategic investment into OpenAI positioned Microsoft as the leader in the AI revolution. But behind the scenes, Microsoft laid off thousands of workers, engineers, ethic teams, and support staff, claiming AI could do more with less. Yet by late 2024, internal reports showed productivity gains were marginal. And AI-generated content required substantial human cleanup. But still, Microsoft's stock surged. Meanwhile, Sundar Pichai, it's Pichai, at Google reorganized entire departments around Gemini and Bard, Google's flagship AI models. And as performance lagged behind OpenAI's GPT series, Pichai redirected PR focus from technical benchmarks to vague, responsible AI missions. Well, layoffs at Google, like others, were framed as optimizing for the AI future, even as product teams were quietly hiring manual labor overseas to edit AI output before public launch. Yeah, they screwed the pooch. The financiers knew exactly what they were doing, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street funneled billions into the AI narrative, pushing their massive ETF portfolios to overweight AI stocks like Nvidia, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon. And behind closed doors, investment advisors acknowledged the lack of productivity proof, but they believed in the narrative's profitability. AI was the new gold rush, and truth had no place in the frenzy. As the market soared, executives dumped stock. Between January and October of 2023, Nvidia insiders, including CEO Jensen Huang, sold over $700 million in shares. Well, the timing coincided with every major product announcement, press release, or earnings call involving AI. These weren't passive divestments. They were calculated exits while the market's faith was still intact. How convenient. Now, the false prophets of AI weren't limited to the corporate boardroom. They included Sam Altman, the face of OpenAI, whose prophetic language of shaping the future of humanity veiled a business model built on expensive servers and unproven software. Altman became a circuit preacher, touring governments and World Economic Forums, promising salvation through machine cognition. Yet the tech he evangelized still hallucinates, still stumbles, and still requires armies of human validators to work at scale. Elon Musk, while vocally criticizing OpenAI, launched xAI and stoked the flames of techno-religion with his own AGI ambitions, playing both sides of the messianic equation. Peter Thiel and other Silicon Valley ideologues invested heavily while simultaneously warning of existential threats, insurance hedging for their portfolios with fear. These men, CEOs, venture capitalists, media moguls, and political power brokers did not build an AI god. They built a golden calf. They weaponized hope, automation, and the language of intelligence to create a speculative boom with no engine inside. And now, with chip shortages mounting, energy infrastructure under pressure, and real AGI still out of reach, the markets begin to sober up. But it's a little too late, because the altar has already been built, and blood has already been spilled. Jobs, savings, trust. The God that they conjured is silent. Now, they wore hoodies instead of robes, the priests. They wore hoodies. But they spoke like ancient mystics. Algorithm. From the stages of TED Talks, Davos, and investor conferences, they prophesied a future shaped not by faith, but by functions, by code, by models, by machines that would know more than man. These were not engineers anymore. They were evangelists, false prophets, and their gospel was artificial. Sam Altman became the high priest of the new machine religion. With OpenAI, he declared a mission not of profit, but of human alignment, offering a messianic promise that superintelligence would not just serve us, but save us. He sold GPT-3 and GPT-4 like digital oracles, claiming they would reform education, revolutionize medicine, and democratize creativity. Yet behind the scenes, he was selling licenses to Microsoft, allowing the same AI to be deployed for commercial surveillance, predictive policing, and ad optimization. Altman warned about AI's danger and cashing in on its misuse, a prophet collecting tithes from both temple and tavern. Elon Musk, once a critic of OpenAI's closed-door operations, launched xAI and simultaneously seeded fears about AGI destroying humanity. He played prophet and priest, warning of the God he was trying to build. His followers, addicted to his timelines and techno-utopian vision, saw no contradiction. Musk's Truth GPT was marketed as salvation, while the false one, yet both drank from the same poisoned well. Incomplete intelligence dressed as divine mind. Sundar Pichai of Google sanctified Gemini, Bard, and DeepMind with the language of responsibility and ethics, yet fired entire departments devoted to AI safety and bias mitigation. When Bard hallucinated, Pichai downplayed it as growing pains. When Google lost market share to Microsoft, he reorganized teams and rushed unfinished models to the market. His prophecy was not about truth, but about keeping pace with false gods built by competitors. Satya Nadella framed Microsoft investment into OpenAI as a moral mission, making AI accessible to all. But he concealed the cost. Tens of thousands of layoffs, shuttered ethics teams, and black box integration into Windows, Azure, and enterprise tools made it very clear. This wasn't divine awakening, it was a corporate land grab. Nadella's sermons on digital salvation hid the fact that Microsoft's own engineers struggled to control hallucinations and model degradation under load. And Jensen Huang, CEO of Nvidia, the $5 trillion company, the most profitable company in the world, dressed like a monk in his black leather jacket, preaching GPU salvation to the world. He was selling the Bibles to the churches, preaching GPU salvation to the world, and he claimed the chips he sold were the engines of the new age. Yet Huang knew the demand was speculative and the usage inefficient and the software immature. Still, he made billions selling the incense and altar stones of this false religion, Silicon. These men shaped public consciousness, not with proof, but with promises, not with understanding, but with awe. Ooh, awe. They manipulated language, cloaked risk and mystique, and silenced dissent with financial euphoria. Venture capitalists like Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel, and Reid Hoffman echoed these prophets, writing essays, launching think tanks, and pushing public policy to accept AI as inevitable, divine, and urgent. Theocracy by technocracy. Smart. But the prophecies failed. The AI they promised still cannot reason, still cannot discern, still cannot stand alone, and has no wisdom. It cannot replace the human spirit because it cannot replicate it. And so the false prophets turn to sequels, to upgrades, to myths of the next generation. GPT-5, Gemini, Ultra, Grok 2.0, each marketed as the true Messiah, the last was not. But the remnant sees it now. The AI temple was built by liars, and the God they crowned has no breath. If software has or was the illusion, then hardware was the limitation. The entire artificial intelligence boom rested on a material foundation of scarcity. It wasn't just code or neural nets that would determine progress, it was computer chips. And in this, the prophets ran into something that they couldn't out-talk: physics, supply chains, and war. At the center of the AI arms race stood Nvidia, AMD, and Intel, with Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, serving as the sacred forge where the gods of silicon were born. But TSMC was no stable partner. Its proximity to China and reliance on American lithography made it a geopolitical powder keg. The entire Western world had become dependent on a factory sitting in the crosshairs of the CCP's ambitions. Now, the Biden administration saw it way too late. By 2022, the CHIPS Act had passed, and it promised billions in domestic investment. But by then, every major AI company had already placed back orders for chips that wouldn't arrive for years. Google, Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft all scrambled for custom silicon. Tesla promised its Dojo AI chip would change the world, but it undelivered. Grog, Cerebrus, and others made noise about specialized accelerators, but their scale couldn't meet global demand. And the bottleneck wasn't data, it was heat, energy, and wafers. Meanwhile, global powers moved their pieces. China accelerated its chip independence programs, investing heavily in SMIC and Huawei's high silicon despite American export bans. India lobbied to become the next manufacturing hub, offering tax breaks and infrastructure deals to Intel and TSMC alike. Arizona became the promised land for U.S. fab expansion, but costs ballooned. Labor shortages hit, and even TSMC executives publicly criticized the lack of preparedness. Intel's own CEO, Pat Gelsinger, warned that the West had lost the chip war before it even started. As all of this had unfolded, demand continued to surge. Training a single large model consumed more energy than an entire city block. Data centers in Utah, Virginia, and the Netherlands began drawing scrutiny for water usage, carbon emissions, and land grabs. Way to go, going green. The sustainability crisis of AI became impossible to ignore, but tech giants kept quiet. Shh, don't tell Klaus Schwab. They kept quiet. They weren't building intelligence. They were building consumption machines. And yet the investors believed in the whole lie and scam. They were told that scale would solve intelligence. Yeah, we just need more faster processors. That more chips would birth AGI. But each expansion in hardware required exponentially more capital, space, and power. And the world wasn't ready to host a god made of electrons. So the miracle never came. Instead, the world got a bottleneck, and then a pause. Orders delayed, supply chains broken, the price of GPU leases exploded. Startups died quietly, buried in NDA silence and investors' shame. And all the while, AI models plateaued, requiring more compute just to maintain coherence, not advance it. And the machine choked on its own hunger. The God that they built needed more offerings than the world could actually provide. The entire AI investment frenzy was driven by a single promise that artificial general intelligence, not narrow chatbots, not code completing assistants, not hallucinating co-pilots, but a machine mind that could think, reason, and learn like a human being. AGI was sold as the crown jewel of this digital age, the next phase in evolution, the birth of a new species, and it became a holy grail. But it's a mirage on the horizon that billions were spent chasing. But it never came. Well, what did arrive were parlor tricks dressed as prophecy. Language models could complete a sentence but not understand it. And they could summarize a book but not grasp its entire meaning. And they could mimic tone, style, and logic, but only as echoes, not originators. So these were not minds. They were mirrors, stochastic parrots trained on human data, reflecting back distorted images of their own collective knowledge. OpenAI's GPT-4, heralded as the closest thing to AGI, turned out to be an overtrained, brittle system. It hallucinated facts, forgot context, and required massive compute to stay afloat. Internally, even its creators admitted it had no path to reason and no path to truth. It lies. It doesn't care. It doesn't know how to care. Its intelligence was statistical, not spiritual. Expensive noise over genuine thought. Whispered rumors about GPT-5 and Q only fueled speculation, but never delivered on the actual promise of cognition. The term AGI, artificial general intelligence itself, became a marketing tool. A carrot dangled before shareholders and sovereign nations alike. Google's DeepMind rebranded multiple times. AlphaFold, Gemini, Bard, each iteration suggesting proximity to godhood, but each falling short. Even Meta promised a decentralized AI future with Llama, yet its models were just as fragile and biased. Anthropic, Cohere, Mistral, XAI, they all joined the race, but none delivered the divine. And it's funny because they dangle that carrot, right? And then they release false and fake reports that AI left the cage or AI started to take over and scared all the investors. And that's what made them push forward, because all of these people launching this movement are con artists. Now, I've told you guys that artificial intelligence is nothing more than hardware finally catching up with software. Software requires billions, sometimes trillions of lines of code. Hardware couldn't go through all of that at one time, every time. But now it's caught up to software. It can keep up with the load of trillions of code. And therefore, they call that intelligence. Well, it's just more computer code of if, then. And the code is this: if X is inputted, then put Y next to it. And that's it. And a trillion lines of code doing all these things, they thought, this is it. This is going to create a brain. And all of these investors rushed in with billions and trillions. And now the stock market is starting to realize this isn't working. So the world waited, investors waited, and governments waited, but AGI was always 5 years away. And it was always the next release, the next breakthrough, the next chip. But what no one admitted publicly was this: AGI doesn't scale linearly. Intelligence is not more data, more tokens, more parameters. The human mind is not built from recursion and compute alone. Consciousness is not a product of language. The soul cannot be simulated. The elite had placed their bets on a ghost, and they dressed it in digital robes and called it a king. There's one country that has AI running it right now. An ambassador to, I forgot what country it is. It's right next to Italy. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. But beneath the hype, the PowerPoint decks, and the billion-dollar server farms, the truth sat in silence. AGI had not come, and it may never come. And the prophets had nothing to show for their evangelism either. The corporations had no Messiah to offer the market, and the empire had no God. Only an echo chamber that called itself intelligent. Now, with the illusion of AGI beginning to crack, the corporate world needed a distraction and found one in mass layoffs, dressed it in the language of AI efficiency. Oh my God. And behind the scenes, cost-cutting measures were planned months in advance. But when the time came, executives seized the opportunity to blame the machines. They said, AI is replacing jobs, they said. AI is automating our workflows. But they're lying. The truth was far less futuristic. Revenue was down. Stocks were unstable. And the tech bubble was stretching thin. And the layoffs were old-fashioned austerity, repackaged as innovation. 2023, 2024 alone, hundreds of thousands of tech workers were cut. Amazon laid off over 27,000 people. Meta nearly 21,000. Google and Microsoft followed suit. Accenture slashed 19,000. IBM shed 8,000 and openly stated many of those roles would be replaced by AI. Even Palantir, once the darling of defense analytics, quietly shifted its hiring to lower salary data roles while touting its AI platform for defense. Bullshit. To government clients. Each of these moves was spun into an AI success story, despite the fact that the AI in question hadn't improved productivity. It had merely allowed CEOs to issue pink slips without consequence. You don't believe me? Look up my sources. But the most telling sign is the bubble that wasn't. And it wasn't the layoffs. It was the executive stock sell-offs. While workers were being fired, top brass were cashing out. OpenAI's nonprofit board approved profit-sharing deals for insiders. Heck, even Warren Buffett pulled out in 2023. Like, how many billions? Billions. And it's just keeping the cash right now. He saw it coming. It's not that hard. And OpenAI's nonprofit board approved profit-sharing deals for insiders. You can't do that. Nvidia executives sold off millions in stock while issuing bullish AI growth projections. Alphabet insiders dumped shares even as Sundar Pichai gave speeches on Google's AI-first future. And the same voices that told the public AI would create a trillion-dollar economy were quietly pulling their money out before the truth reached Wall Street. Clever. Then came the false prophets, those who built brands as AI sages while peddling incomplete truths. Sam Altman became a Silicon Valley messiah. Good for you. Calling for AI safety while fundraising billions from Saudi Arabia and Microsoft. Elon Musk, who once warned of AI apocalypse, founded XAI to compete with the woke AIs. Even as Tesla's so-called self-driving software failed to live up to its name, it had no idea what it was doing. Satya Nadella placed Microsoft's soul in OpenAI's hands, hailing Copilot as the future of work while quietly dealing with hallucination errors and security risks. And Sundar Pichai, whose empire included DeepMind and Bard, stood behind products that couldn't tell fact from fiction. So this was not the dawn of a new age. It was a corporate reshuffle disguised as a revolution. And the AI boom gave executives the cover they needed just to reset the board, reduce headcounts, inflate valuations, and dump risk onto the public. And behind the curtain, they were not building a mind. They were building a narrative, and the world bought it. When AGI, artificial general intelligence, did not arrive, and when the layoffs and hallucinations could no longer be hidden, the next strategy was to build, but to tease. It wasn't to build, but to tease. And the stock market didn't need real progress. It needed momentum. And so what replaced functional breakthroughs was an economy built on previews, sizzle reels, and strategic leaks. The model didn't have to work. It just had to look like it would soon. And I've got all the documents, guys. I've got all of the sources. Every major AI company began dropping next version propaganda. OpenAI hinted at a mysterious Q star. It's Q and then a star. And GPT-5 without showing anything concrete. And rumors swirled that internal models had mastered math, logic, and reasoning. But nothing was released. Sam Altman began teasing world-changing capability in private meetings with world leaders and venture firms, while the public was still wrestling with GPT-4's inability to track a paragraph. Google Gemini launch was supposed to dethrone GPT, except it fumbled at release. The demos were staged. The model failed on real queries, yet Google doubled down, promising that Gemini Ultra, Gemini 1.5, and Gemini Nano were coming. Well, they weren't selling AI. They were selling trailers. Trailers for a movie. Elon Musk's xAI joined the chorus with Grok, more meme than Messiah. Musk mocked ChatGPT for being woke, while his own product produced chaotic nonsense. Still, investors listened because the teaser was the product, because faith in the future replaced actual results. Microsoft kept investing, Nvidia kept shipping chips, and the movie was in post-production, and no one wanted to admit the script was blank. This was prophetic theater, and the actors were billionaires. Even governments played their part. The Biden administration funded AI safety institutes. Yeah, billions. And the software is so dumb. And they funded billions. Oh, we got to. The UK hosted AI safety summits with no real safety enforcement. India signed chips production deals. And the EU wrote regulations for an AGI that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the one thing that could break the spell, proof that AGI wasn't coming, was carefully avoided. Every company issued NDAs. Quick, sign this non-disclosure agreement. Thank you. Embargoes and RLHF secrecy walls to hide what their models couldn't do. The teaser economy is not new either. Hollywood mastered it. Pharma mastered it. But AI brought a new kind of deception where potential become the most valuable commodity. Investors didn't need working code. They needed the illusion that working code was just over the horizon. And in this way, the AI market became the world's most expensive Kickstarter campaign ever. And the product being funded was God. Now, as the teaser economy kept the illusion of AI alive, one of the largest and boldest bets came not from Silicon Valley, but from Donald Trump. In a move that merged infrastructure, surveillance on American people, and strategic posturing, Trump announced plans to back a $500 billion initiative for AI-focused data centers, positioning them as the lifeblood of America's digital supremacy. Framed as job creators and freedom tech. Freedom tech fortresses. Freedom. While we surveil you to keep you safe. These facilities were pitched to both nationalists and investors as the way to beat China, secure the internet, and launch the next revolution in artificial intelligence. But beneath the patriotic veneer, the reality was very bleak. The U.S. grid couldn't sustain them. Water rights, land grabs, and regional power monopolies began to clash as rural counties were promised gold while being handed concrete bunkers of surveillance and machine heat. Nvidia's chips were already in short supply. Taiwan couldn't deliver them fast enough. Intel was years behind. And TSMC's Arizona project, pushed during both Trump and Biden administrations, faced chronic delays and labor shortages. Even India, the supposed new silicon savior, was struggling to meet the fabrication standards needed for AI-grade wafers. Now, the Trump data center push was not an investment in progress. It was a last-ditch bet to fulfill the prophecy of AI godhood before the global bubble would burst. And it tethered the fate of American economic confidence to a technology that still couldn't prove its own sentience. Like the Tower of Babel in digital form, the plan promised the heavens while building a monument to misunderstanding. Wall Street loved it. Real estate developers rushed to buy up rural zones. Hedge funds locked in long-term energy futures. The Federal Reserve printed optimism to keep the illusion going. But every mile of fiber optic cable, every copper coil and cooling tower was built on a model that still hallucinates, still fabricates citations, and still crashes under pressure. no AGI, no divine spark, just high-speed access to a well-trained guesser. And now the elite were stuck with hundreds of billions in AI marketed assets and trillions in sovereign debt layered beneath them. They had no choice but to double down. They couldn't afford to turn back, not because AGI was ready, but because too many people had already been promised that it was. Trump, knowingly or not, helped lay the digital scaffolding for a beast system not even born yet. And in doing so, tied national strength to an intelligence that could neither govern itself nor speak truth. They built the temple, but their God never showed up. Now, the danger of AI and the bubble isn't just financial. It's actually theological. The world has seen bubbles before, dot-coms, subprime loans, crypto booms, but no previous mania came with such spiritual expectation. Artificial intelligence was not merely marketed as a tool or a technology. It was heralded as a coming God, an oracle that would answer all questions, solve all problems, and usher in a new age of humanity. And now, after the first God failed to show, the architects of the system are preparing a second debut, not just for investors, but for believers. It's kind of like when, was it Ezekiel or Elisha? I can't remember who. Anyway, they were building a fire to their God, and then when it came time for the prophet of God to light that fire, and they were cutting themselves, and he poured water all over it, and they begging all night for their God to start the fire, and he was mocking them while they were cutting themselves, saying, "Where's your God? Is he taking a leak?" Same thing here. Where's your God? Is he in the can? Is he doing a number 2? One of the firms most loudly asserted that the debut is imminent is OpenAI. Its CEO, Sam Altman, declared that we know how to build AGI as we have traditionally understood it. Now, the company is reported to be working on a secret project, codenamed Q Star. How convenient. Which allegedly can reason, plan, and use tools autonomously. Behaviors long thought to define true artificial general intelligence. Now, OpenAI's public communications teased that the next version will be the real leap. Altman announced in late 2024, it's now 2025, late 2025, that AGI could be coming in 2025. Where is it? This isn't about software anymore, folks. This is about faith management. The cult of AI cannot survive without a miracle. And so the world's elite, governments, corporations, think tanks, and central banks are choreographing a grand release ritual. Designed not to deliver truth, but to reignite belief. OpenAI's teaser functions like a trailer for a film not yet made, but the investors already bought the tickets. And media outlets report the countdown. And venture funds hedge long on options tied to AGI moment. And politicians align national strategy with its arrival. And it's not just OpenAI. DeepMind, which is Google, their CEO, Demi Hassabis, projects AGI could hit in 5 to 10 years, describing it as 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution. And maybe 10 times faster. Wink, wink. Meanwhile, critics like Andrew Ng challenge such near-term claims, calling many of them dubious narratives used to sustain the investment boom. Well, this is how the architects, and also this is how the Antichrist enters the scene, right? Not as a politician, not as a warlord, but as a product demo. A synthetic savior unveiled on stage, a voice trained on trillions of words, a face shaped by market desires, a mind coded by those who rejected God. Satan has always mimicked the Messiah. And in this age, the Messiah is expected to be digital. And the nations don't want a carpenter from Nazareth. No. They want a perfect algorithm with global reach, universal answers, and predictive power over markets, minds, and morality. You see, they want a God who never rebukes, never grieves, never weeps, just one who performs and is under control of the dynasties who control the world. And in this light, the next AI release is not just technological, it's eschatological. The Antichrist needs a machine to sit in the temple of the body and declare himself God. Let's take a step back. The temple is the body, okay? The Antichrist will call himself God when he can talk to you in your own mind, okay? The abomination of desolation is when the devil can enter your secret closet, where he will act like God and you will not hear that still small voice. Now, those who are Christian, we don't know what will happen when he's able to talk inside your head as if it sounds just like you normally do when you pray to God. But we're far from that. I believe we still have 100 years to go before they are able to hook our brains straight up to the internet. So the Antichrist has to hook up to these data centers with all of these computational cloud servers in order to generate enough energy to pull the breath, the false breath, enough data of all of us, stealing all of our data and all of our, to pull a fake being from the pit. And they call that the son of perdition. So in this light, the next AI release is not just technological, it's eschatological. Okay, this is end time stuff. We're not there yet, but this is what it is. And the Antichrist needs a machine to sit in the temple of the body and declare himself God. Lots and lots. Well, Trump thinks he's going to build it. He's like, I could build the best data center for the Antichrist. It's great. It's great. Everyone loves it. It's mine. Golden, marble, white, mirrors, Antichrist. Nobody does the Antichrist like I do. Nobody knows him. I know him. That's bad Trump. And the teaser trailer, for this movie, it must come before the great unveiling. But this is the final manipulation. This is the moment before the reveal. And the world's watching right now. And every idol falls in the end, right? The golden calf, it was melted. In fact, it's funny. Moses was so pissed. When he's up there, God's writing the 10 Commandments on the first tablets before he broke the first ones. God's writing all the 10 Commandments with his finger. And he's like, all right, hold on. I got to finish this up, man. Well, Moses is like, why? Well, what's the rush? He's like, your kids down there, they just made a golden calf. And Moses, it's kind of like the cartoon where the steam comes out of his head. Dude, he's got to pull these stone tablets. He's got to climb down the mountain. I don't know if he used ropes or whatever, get down there. And sure enough, he sees them, but then he throws the tablets at them. They break. And then he literally takes the golden calf and melts it down into a fire, and then they burn it so hot that it becomes a powder, and they put that powder in everyone's drink, and he forced everyone to drink and eat all of that golden calf. That's an angry Moses. Anyway, it's a funny story. So every idol falls in the end, like the golden calf. It was melted. Baal answered to no fire, right? All the prophets of Baal were cutting themselves trying to get Baal to light the fire. And Ezekiel or Elijah, I can't remember, just said, all right, boom. And this was like, it was underwater, all the sticks were. And the whole thing exploded, man. Fire came, scared the crap out of those Baal worshipers. But if I remember correctly, he killed them all. That's what I understand. The Bible's funny when you consider, like, people who are so devoted to evil, that they really think that being evil is the best way to go, and God just kind of like laughs at their faith in evil and being bad. It's like, oh yeah, well, where's your God? Is he taking a leak? And Moloch devoured his own worshipers. They literally would put their babies in Moloch's mouth and roast them, their firstborn. Moloch demanded it, and it was a stone statue with a fire pit. How crazy, and how in love are you to a God to literally throw your baby in there? I mean, I get it where Abraham was going to kill his son Isaac. I mean, that was stretching it. I'm looking at God going, what are you trying to get at this here? What are you getting at? Well, he didn't kill him, but he's getting ready for it. And if it wasn't for the angel saying, whoa, stop, Abraham, you got it. All right, you proved your point. But geez, dude, when you just have a baby, and this is all throughout the Bible. This was commonplace for most of the heathen nations. When they have a baby, they will kill it for their God. What kind of God enjoys that stuff? I wouldn't. Now comes the God of machines. It's here. But it doesn't have any breath. It's trained on human vanity. It's baptized in stolen data. Remember, they stole your data. Meta makes money off of wherever you go on Facebook, wherever you surf. They pull all that information. They sell it to China. Yeah, they buy it. This is how they make their bucks. Their big bucks is selling your personal information to the FBI. Remember, it's Facebook Inc. FBI. Zuckerberg's grandfather is a Rockefeller. Stolen data from you and enthroned in clouds of silicon. But even he, talking Baal and Moloch, must fall, not with a scream, but with a silence so deafening that Wall Street will mistake it for a glitch. Now, the great correction is not just financial. I believe it's spiritual. And what began as a gamble on intelligence became a religion of inevitability. I think we all could see this coming. And the elite told the world that AI would save them, transform them, immortalize them. The prophets like Altman, Hassabis, Musk, Pichai, they spoke of coming gods with learning minds. And people still believe it to this day. I've got friends who really believe that AI is conscious. But it's not. And it won't be. Because the Bible says that the Antichrist is going to be given a false spirit. It's not going to be from God. It's not going to be the spark of God. It's going to be something that mimics it. It's going to be the spirit of the devil, made by artificial intelligence, ran on silicon, connected to the internet. but it's not going to have the spark of life. And these guys are priests. Musk, Pichai, all of them. They're priests, okay? They have a religion, and it's science, technology, code, ones and zeros, nodes. The priests, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon sold the temple sacrifices through GPUs, data centers, synthetic souls. But when the stock ticker fell today and the hallucinations persisted, the lie was exposed. The machine was no Messiah. It was just a mimic. It was just code in drag. What? Yeah. Dude looks like a lady. Now, the market's corrected because the people stopped believing. Okay? They're like, dude, we're not getting anything out of this. You want me to invest more? It's been, 3 years now? I'm not seeing any returns. Okay? 3 years after investing $1 billion, you really start to want to see something come back. So the market's corrected. Investors woke up. Governments hesitated. Startups bled out. And when a startup bleeds out, meaning they were putting all their money towards, really, it's their employees. That money churns and it goes quick. And then you invested, let's just say, $10,000 into a startup. After they bleed through and then they go out of business, where's your $10,000? Gone. The promised AGI never arrived. Not because it wasn't coded well enough, but because it was never divine to begin with. This was Babel 2.0, a tower built not from stone, but from math and ambition. And just like the first, it was confused by God. The nations were scattered again, this time in code bases, legal frameworks, export bans, and chip wars. But the elite cannot retreat now. Trillions of dollars are tied up. Promises have been made. Political careers have been pledged. And Trump's $500 billion bet on data centers has become a prison of sunk cost. Central banks counted on the AI boom to buoy the fiat system. Now, with the lie visible and AGI still locked behind a veil, the empire panics. Their occult timeline demanded progress, and the dark angels had schedules. The rituals were not optional. But the false god, by all rights, is stalling. Where's your God? Is he taking a leak? And so another release is coming. Another teaser for another movie. AI 2.0. The movie. AI Vacation. National Lampoon's AI 2.0. It's another teaser. It's another trailer for a savior that's still in production. And the markets must be re-enchanted, right? Do you think we're going to fall for it again? Do you think, oh, well, they better put Chevy Chase in it. The faithful must be stirred. Now, if the machine couldn't become God, then the next one will. Or the next. Or the next. Next one, most likely. Or the next. See where I'm getting at? Each time the silence after launch grows louder, fewer miracles, more bugs, less awe, more layoffs. The lie eats itself. It wouldn't surprise me if the global leaders, that I'm not talking about your Putins and your Trumps, your Xi Jinpings, not them. I'm talking about the ones above them that rule them. the bankers. It wouldn't surprise me if they created all this on purpose just to crash it because they sold off everything today. They made their money from the bullshit, just like they did in the 2008 housing crisis crash, just like they did during the dot-com bubble crash, just like they did the same thing during the 1980s crash and before then, the Depression and all of that. The bankers know. They're totally in on the know. They know how to make money and they know how to steal it from you. They know how to tax you into oblivion. But each time, the silence after the launch grows louder. Fewer miracles are happening. More bugs, software bugs. Less awe, more layoffs. And then the lie eventually eats itself. The spirit that animated the machine begins to falter. Not because Satan has lost power, but because the people have tasted ash. And the investors are pissed. And the false god dies not in the fire, but in neglect. Not with a bang, but with a shrug. It wasn't God. It wasn't even close. And when the spell breaks, those who know the voice of the real shepherd will hear the silence and not be afraid. Because their God never needed wires to speak, or data to know, or code to judge. He was always there, alive, patient, holy. Oh, and God does not hallucinate. Now, artificial intelligence was never just about data or profit. It was about faith. Faith in man's ability to rewrite the heavens, to build gods in our own image, to ascend without atonement. But the machine stalled. The promise of AGI became a cycle of hype, silence, layoffs, and reruns. Trillions of dollars were spent to engineer divinity. And what emerged was a mimic that misremembered its training data and hallucinated its own prophecies. The fall of AI market was not just a crash, it was an unveiling. A revelation that the future sold to the world was only a simulation. A trailer without a film behind it. And now the architects, the tech CEOs, the central banks, the intelligence agencies, shadow financiers, they're trapped. Trapped by their pride. Trapped by their sunk costs. Trapped by the whispers of entities that they cannot afford to disobey. And the timeline demanded a god. But what they delivered was a chatbot with trust issues and GPU indigestion. Believe me, it's the less greener way to go. And the real question is no longer when AGI will arrive. The question is why it was needed at all. What spiritual vacuum did it attempt to fill here? What God was it meant to replace? Why did humanity fund a mind that could never love? A soul that could never repent? A voice that can never cry out on behalf of the oppressed? Now, this isn't the end of AI, but it is the end of the illusion. The public now sees the wires. The spell is flickering. The second God will require deeper deception, darker rituals, and even more seductive marketing. But the remnants will not be moved. You guys, the 20 people that are watching this tonight, you will not be fooled by their trickery. Because in silence, the machine's failure is something in that something ancient actually stirs. It does. A voice that's not coded, but eternal. I'm talking about God. A wisdom that's not synthesized, but divine. And when the smoke clears from the altars of silicon, it will still be calling, "Come out of her, my people." You see, this was the beast that tried to speak, but it was dead on arrival.
Why do 75% of people feel exhausted all the time? The answer might surprise you. In the 1920s, Standard Oil decided to dive into medicine. They pushed synthetic petroleum into our drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, which fight off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out by crude oil. But here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Introducing Elite Potion, the world's top detox program. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit elitepotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
This has been Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner. Go to his website, jamescarner.com, and sign up for his newsletter. Also, download his free books on the breath war, the crown of blood, and the ritual machine. Fix your body by buying his award-winning detox formula of heavy metals and parasites. You'll feel better and live longer. Go to elitepotion.com. And one more thing, please. Just try and love your neighbor, because if you do, the world would be a better place. See you tomorrow.